Hello,
Hello.
boys and girls and people who have rung the doorbell.
Oh.
It's Coaching for Geeks. We're live with Zak Lacey, and we've got something fancy to happen. I should have been ready for this. Let's have a little intro. Now, that was supposed to give me the opportunity to check if it was working over on Facebook, but it's not. So, Zak, who are you? What do you do?
I am Zak, and I am a copywriter wearing a fucking ridiculous hat. Thank you, Vic. Yeah. So I'm a copywriter, and I'm going to be talking to you about some copywriting things today. I think that's what we're doing. We've got a list of things that I want to cover with you, and we'll go through them.
Great. People at home, you can pose questions and we can show them on screen. Thank you for your valuable input, Louise.
Bones.
As you can see, if you've not been to one of our trainings before, it's very, very serious, and we'll be not doing knob jokes or anything. I'm going to move my brand logo from off your forehead there. All right, so Zak, what is copywriting?
Okay, so what is copywriting? So any kind, I suppose the best answer to that is any kind of writing that is produced for mass consumption, so that lots of people are going to read, could be termed as copywriting. In terms of what I do, and in terms of what we probably most often think about as being copywriter in the sort of space that we're in the sort of online world, what we do what we would call direct response copywriting. So writing that not only is just meant to be consumed by lots of people, but the idea is that any piece of writing that you write, that where the intended outcome is that the person reading it takes some kind of action or responds to it in some way. So that would be direct response copywriting. So emails, sales pages, landing pages, that sort of thing, social posts, that sort of stuff.
So for people in Coaching for Geeks, they're people running blogs, live streaming games, running podcasts, got Etsy stores. So it's anything that they do that gets people to click that link.
Yeah, click a link, buy a product, whatever that is, whatever piece of writing that is, that would be copywriting or direct response copy. Yeah, this hat got to fucking go. It's ridiculous, right?
but no, Vic loves the hat. We've both got wands, by the way.
Yeah.
We've got the
Sirius Black ones as well.
Got Sirius Black swans. Let's see.
Although I have just said I've got Sirius Black's wand in my hand on the live internet, so what could possibly go wrong with that? There we go.
We both have. We've got matching ones. Zak.
Yeah.
Maybe not a little bit. Vic wants the hat on. Sorry, Vic. Mind you, Amanda wants to see ones out. Rude. Right. So where do we start? Where do we start with copy? I had Zak write all mine for me, so I don't know how to write copy. Where does one begin?
So sounds really obvious, but you start at the beginning, and the most important thing about any piece of copywriting isn't the sitting down and the writing. The most important thing you can do if you're looking to write copy is do your research right at the beginning. And so if that's a product that I'm writing for somebody else, so it's like we did with Ultimate Nerd, the thing I need to do is really understand as much as I possibly can, about the product itself, and understand what it does, who it's for, how it does it, all those sorts of things. I need to maybe not understand it fully inside out like Robin would, but I need to have a really good grasp on what it is, who it does, what it's for. But then just as importantly, I also need to really understand and really research who our intended customer is, because that will completely change the what you write and how you sort of get to grips with your copy, depending on who you're writing to, depending on who the specific target audience is, will completely depend on, or will completely change depending on how much you know about them. So they would be the most, that's where we start with any copy, is understanding what the product is. Now, if you're writing copy for yourself for a product or service that you provide, then broadly speaking, most people should already know what that is. But if you're writing for somebody else, then you have to spend quite a lot of time understanding that. And secondly, you need to really understand who you're writing to, who the product's for, and how we can really try to connect with those people. And we spend a lot of time doing that. Personally, if I'm writing for somebody else, I get them to do a lot of the research for me. Robin, you'll remember when we did the Nerd, I sent you a big long format to fill all sorts of information in, just so that I can have that. Then I go away, look at that, and then fill in any blanks I need. How do you research the audience? Asks Amanda. So it would depend on several things. I mean, primarily, you should always have a good idea of who your avatar is, or your ideal client avatar, your ICA. And then what you want to do is you need to really nail that down, so you know exactly who it is you're writing to. But then what you want to do is work out where those people are, and work out where they sort of hang out, and just go out and find out about them. Join Facebook groups. I mean, that's one of the things, isn't it? How do you find out where they are? You have to put yourselves in their shoes, and you just have to spend time. Facebook groups, Facebook pages, online forums, specifically if we're talking about the online world, and just go and find them. And that's just your research. That's what you've got to do, is just go out and dig around until you find them, and find out what sort of things they are talking about, find out what sort of things they're struggling with, find out as much about them as you can. But the internet's such a brilliant place that you can find anything on the internet. But I suppose that also comes with a downside, that you can spend hours and hours and hours down rabbit holes you don't need to be in. So yeah, it's just about going out and finding them, really.
That's one of the things you did so well when we worked together, was you asked for more information than I could initially provide, because the product hadn't fully taken shape. We went from a concept to launch in about 2 weeks.
Yeah.
But you did that deep dive. You got that information from me. You read my blog, and you found my voice quite quickly. So you were able to write in a similar style to how I would present it, but a bit more cleverer. Yeah. So once you've done your research and you know what you're doing, then you need to start sort of crafting your copy. And one of whether this is the place you'd start, but it's one of the first parts of your copy that you absolutely have to get right, is your headlines. So if it's an email, obviously it's a subject line. If it's a social post, then it's whatever the first line of that social post is, but whatever that headline. And they are so important, because you can spend hours and hours and hours crafting absolutely brilliant sales copy, but unless people read it, it doesn't count for anything. And the way you get people to read your copy is by dragging them in by their eyeballs, by reading and getting hold of the headline. And so your headline is always massively important. I suppose occasionally, if you've got a really warm email list that you're writing to, headlines might be less important, because if they're just sitting around waiting for your email, then they'll probably open it, whatever it says. But anything that is going out to any kind of cold audience, you've got to grab their attention, because we get so many emails, see so many Facebook posts every day, that you've got to stand out. And so
the ways that you can stand out, the way that I tend to structure my headlines is one of 4 or 5 ways, depending on what it is I'm trying to do. One really good way of getting people's attention in a headline is by asking a question. Because the way that our brains are wired, if we are asked, if we see a question, automatically we want to know what the answer to that question is. So, for example, with the nerd formula, you could, if we were sending an email out, I can't remember, I haven't got it with me, but I imagine there was probably a headline in there that asked a question along the lines of, what if we could do X without Y, or something like that. Mm-hmm. Something to trigger some intrigue. Because if you ask a question, you trigger intrigue or mystery, then people want to know, just naturally. If you set something up as a bit of a mystery, people are going to want to know what comes next. So they're going to want to open up the email and find out.
We don't know who this is. They've not given us permissions. But by headlines, do you mean terrible puns?
Yeah, why not? Anything that's going to grab somebody's attention. Using terrible puns in bold text, great idea. Sometimes with your email, sometimes you will find, this is a bit geeky, but you will find that emails with a lot of capitalization in them often get stuck straight into spam boxes. But yeah, I mean, why not? Anything like that, a joke, a pun, anything like that, something just to trigger people's attention amongst the myriad of shit that we all see every day.
A question here from another unknown user. How would you translate these kind of skills into something like an Instagram caption? And it's Hayley. Hello, Hayley.
How would I translate these kind of skills into something like an Instagram caption? By working on it. So I suppose we're talking about headlines here. I mean, the other ways that you can go about crafting good headlines is to find out work out one of the main benefits of what it is, the product or service that you're selling, and then weave that into your headline or build your headline around that. We'll come on to benefits and features later on, but yeah, I mean, making a bold claim or a bold statement is also a good way of capturing people's attention. So if you can find or work out something that's really, really good about your product or service, and then build your headline around that, and then that would be very similar for Insta captions as well, I guess, because again, you've got a short space that you want to fill with as much power, if you like, in order to grab people's attention. So yeah, and it just takes work, I think. So every
what that Instagram post is trying to achieve as well.
Yeah, exactly.
Are you trying to send them to a site? Are you trying to get them to follow you? Are you trying to get them to take a piece of action?
Yeah.
It's going to depend what that is.
Yeah.
I've resorted to clickbait and it works.
Yeah, it does. Clickbait does work. It's, we might not like that, but it does work. People will click on weird shit just because they will.
Number 3, you won't believe. Here's something you won't believe.
Yes. Yeah.
Here. She's got a comment.
My voice or Robin's voice?
There's somebody at the door. You've got to hold the fort.
Right, okay. Well, I'm going to talk to Hayley then, because except I can't go after. So what are you saying, Hayley? If my voice is much posher than you thought it was going to be, does that mean you thought I was a tramp, or I lived in a bin or something? I don't know. Is he coming back? Sounds like it. Yeah, no, the other way of another really good, useful way of grabbing people's attention in a headline is by using a quote. So if you use a quote either from a famous person or that grabs people's attention, particularly with emails, you'll tend to find headlines with speech marks around them often get quite good open rates and stuff like that. So that's good. Right, so I've got notification that Hayley has commented, but I can't see it because I'm not the host on this this video, so I can't see it. So we'll have to wait for Robin to come back. But moving on from headlines, and well, kind of related to headlines, but the next sort of phase or area I'd want to talk about would be what we call hooks. And a hook, when it comes to copywriting, is effectively the big idea, the unique selling point, the angle or the strategy, and how you frame the product or service that you're offering. And after your headline, the hook is the most important thing. Now, hooks, similarly to headline, a hook could be a particular benefit that you want to get across, but it doesn't necessarily have to be. It could be a benefit of the product or the service that you're providing, or it could just be an angle that you're using to sell the product. Effectively, we call them hooks or big ideas or whatever, but that is I suppose the idea or the thought behind how you frame your offer. Robin, I can't see the comments from people, but was Hayley saying that you were more posh than she thought, or me?
No, Zak's voice.
Fine, okay. So you did think I was a tramp or something? Because I don't have a posh voice at all. Hobo Zak Lacey. Yes, thank you, James. Ooh, copywriters start by we do. Living in a bin, selling toenails. And that's how we start. And then all of a sudden we find out what the one weird trick is. And then we overnight. That's how it works, yeah, definitely. 100%.
Hold on, Zak. You said there's 4 tips for headlines: questions, quotes.
Questions, quotes, intrigue, and bold statements. So I suppose questions and intrigue are one, but bold statements would be the other one in there. So just say something bold, make a big claim about whatever the product or the service is. This will change your life, or this will increase the size of your penis, or whatever it is you're trying to sell. Yeah, make a big bold statement about it.
That works.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
It's quite lengthy, but it's quite thin. I'm just looking for some girth there.
Yeah. I think, well, from as I understand, you do need the girth. I don't think you'd be in our lungs with that. But
it's got some weight to it, at least.
Oh, this is live on the internet, isn't
it? It is.
Yeah. Right, so I sort of started to talk about hooks, Robin.
All right. Carry on with your hooking.
With my hooking, yeah. So, really, it's the big idea. It's the way you frame your offer. And like I said, it might be a particular benefit of the product that you want to concentrate in your copy, or it might just be the angle with which you choose to sell it. So if we were, I don't know, for example, if we were selling cars, I don't know why I'm talking about cars, this could all go wrong, but if we were selling cars, it might be that we choose the hook that we want to talk about might be that it gets 150 miles to the gallon, or it might be that the ride is so smooth that you barely even know you're driving. So the hook is the mechanism that we choose to shape the copy with. And so that is what a hook is. Idea being, it's like a hook, like a fishing hook, if you like, that's what people grab onto initially, and then that drags them into the text. Okay, so next one, and this is where it really starts, where the rubber starts to hit the road. This is, if you've got your headline sorted out, you've done your research, you've got your headline sorted out, you know the hook, what have the general premise that you're selling on. Then you get into the body copy, which is effectively most of the writing. Now, and obviously I could sit here and waffle on for hours and hours and hours about what that should look like and what it can look like. But I think there's probably 6 or 7 key things that we need to be aware of when we're writing copy in order to make it effective. The first one is the tone of the copy. For me, unless you're selling something that's really, really serious, and even then, so we're talking about things like financial products or legal services, but even then, I think there's probably some leeway. The best copy is always conversational. Now, you'll hear people say, oh, you should write how you speak. To a degree, yes, but also when we speak, we and we are and we piss about. So you don't, not exact transcripts of how you would speak, but it needs to feel conversational. Because if you just throw hard facts and information at people, you're going to lose them. You need to involve the reader effectively. And so when I'm writing copy, I always imagine, this goes back to what we were talking about research earlier on, I always imagine I am writing it to one specific individual, whoever the avatar, whoever the ICA is, get them in mind and then write specifically to them. And then when you're writing it, make it conversational. So rather than just reeling off a load of spiel about whatever it is you're writing about, you also, the way you break your text up and almost get them to nod along and agree with you. So you put in little questions like, wouldn't you agree, so-and-so? Or what do you think about that? Or you know how this feels, or something like that, just so that as people are reading, they're not just reading the random thoughts of somebody else. They actually feel like they're involved with the conversation, because that's the main thing. That's what copy is. It is a conversation. People don't buy.
What if it's a complicated product with lots of info to convey? Asks Amanda.
You wouldn't convey it all in one email, would you? So if you've got, unless it's a long form sales page, in which case you've got room to concentrate on all the different things. But I suppose that depends what we're talking about. Are we talking about body copy or headlines there? Because if we're talking about headlines, I'd still I'd find the most important or the most appealing benefit and build my headline around that. If there's more than one and you're writing a series of emails, you could do it however many times you need to.
Yeah, because you're always going to do a series of emails or social posts or tweets or things out to your community, aren't you? It's not just here's what, buy my thing, and then
it's never a one-shot deal, is it? There's always room to talk about one thing, but any one individual piece of copy should always have one idea, one hook, because otherwise it just gets confusing. It doesn't mean you can't talk about other items or other factors that are in it, but there has to really be one sort of spine, one sort of thread that runs all the way through that one piece of copy. Otherwise you just confuse people.
Let's talk about the sales page and the body copy in that. So you've got room.
Yeah. So on a sales page, you've got room to talk about different things, but still the hook remains the same. I mean, you'd almost certainly on a sales page list out lots of different benefits and lots of different features, but your hook would still ultimately remain the same. Because it would have to be a fairly broad benefit. You couldn't, if it's quite a niche benefit of that product, you probably wouldn't make that your hook. But you'd look broadly at, okay, what is the main benefit of this? So is the main benefit that it's going to make people money? Is it going to make them more popular? Is it going to make them whatever? And then
happier, more productive.
Yeah, exactly. Whatever it is. Now, there's different elements involved in that, but just find what the overall broad one is, use that as your hook, and then talk about the rest of it as in your copy as you go. Also, always use stories in copy as much as you can. people, you know, right from when we're kids, we learn and we absorb and we remember stories. If I was just to stand, or if in a piece of copy, if I was just to use a piece of copy to throw loads of facts and figures at people, all those facts and figures might be perfectly correct and true, but people just aren't going to respond to that in the same way, because you'll lose people. Whereas stories are easier. What have you done, Robin?
I broke it.
No, you broke it, right? Okay. But
The
yeah,
dying, so it just switches itself off every once in a while. Sorry, carry on.
Yeah, people understand stories. People relate to stories. People just get to grips with stories much quicker. Now that could be an almost fictional story that you make up to prove a point, or quite often in copy we use testimonials and almost use people's own words about how the experience they had with a particular product or service in the past, to get people to understand. Because you can use, I mean, you can give all the facts and figures that you can in a list of bullets, which we'll come to in a minute. But if you put them in a story, people will absorb and relate to that far better than they will if you're just shoving facts at them.
I think you've just answered this question quite well there. Top tips from going from academic and technical writing style to actually engaging, appealing copy. It's probably about use of stories and
I mean, a top tip, the main top tip for any kind of copywriting is practice. Just write it and write it and write it. But particularly if you want to go from a more technical writing style to a more conversational writing style, is something, you can do this all round, but is to read your copy out loud and record it and then play it back to you. Play it back to yourself. And that does a couple of things. When you're reading it, you will find the areas that people trip up on, any particular passages that are difficult to read or difficult to understand. You'll pick them up, and then when you play it back, you'll do the same thing again, and you'll catch the tone of it. I mean, quite honest, if I'm struggling to write something down in a conversational tone, what I will do is I will use Otter or something and just talk, and just talk about it in the way that I talk, and then take that back out and edit it down into a piece of copy, because that really works. I mean, you can do it on your phone and just dictate it, and then type it out afterwards. But it's really just getting into a conversational tone. Other really big thing with copy is getting other people to read it for you as well, before you put it out, and then, because getting somebody else's input into your copy is always going to be useful.
What's Otter for people who don't know?
Sorry? What's Otter? So it's a piece of, I think you can get it as an app, or you can get it on your desktop. It's Otter AI. It's a piece of software that will take spoken word and dictate it using AI into a transcribed block of text, and that's, I think with the free plan you get about 600 minutes free, but it's done by AI, so there will be some editing to do, but then there are other packages out there. Yeah, absolutely right, Haley. Right, it's brilliant, and it's such a good way of writing copy, is to speak it, because then you know you're getting that conversational tone. Because if you stand there and if you sit down and you start to talk in too formal a fashion, you'll just pick yourself up on it. You'll say that I don't speak like this. Isn't how I speak in everyday life. And you'll notice it. But yeah, so Otter AI, I think you can do 600 minutes free via.
That's something that when I started out blogging, I really struggled with. I thought there was a way I was supposed to be as I am a professional development guy, and I'm to be serious and stuff. And now it's much more me, and get thousands more clicks as a result.
Yeah. But I think we often confuse professionalism for formality. and it's possible to be professional without being overly formal. I'm convinced of that. But I think often we get those two confused and think, oh, I've got to write this. And then what happens is it just comes across dry and nobody's going to read it, because unless you're, I mean, they say, whether it's 100% true or not, they say that every word in a piece of copy has to make you want to read the next word. Now, whether that is true on such a micro level, I don't know, but certainly a headline should be designed to get people into the text, and then a chunk of text, be that a short paragraph or a sentence or a thought, in some respects has to do the job of getting the person to read the next bit. Whether you go down word for word, I don't know, but the simple fact is, if you become too formal and too dry in your copy, nobody's going to read it. You just don't. And that's why we need to keep that sort of almost light conversational tone. And it can be playful, it can be whatever, depending on what it is you're trying to achieve. But you need to keep people engaged, and that would then lead me on to breaking text in your copy down into short chunks. If you've got a massive long
Oh, no, that's
that was a bad place to stop, wasn't it? But if you've got that's a big paragraph and it's 5 or 6 sentences long, always look for ways to break that down and space that out, and look for ways of making that easier to read, because people are far more likely to read 1 and 2 line sentences than they are a big paragraph of text. And it also gives people the chance to absorb it more as well. If there's a natural break in it, how often do you read a big long paragraph of text and think, oh, hang on, I've concentrated on reading that, but I haven't understood it? Whereas if it's broken down into smaller sections, you absorb and understand more of it, would be the way to go. And then, as well as another way, because that's all about getting people to read it and making it more readable. Another really good way of doing that is to use what they call bullet points. And the idea behind using bullet points is that you can convey quite a lot of information quite quickly, but also as somebody scrolls down the page, having bullets on that page will break that page up and make it far more appealing to read, because actually what you do with your bullets, you'd almost summarize a piece of text or whatever within those bullets, and then people can really get to grips with the idea of what it is you're trying to convey quite quickly. Because what you've got to remember when you're writing copy is people don't always, although we'd love them to, they don't always start at the top and read all the way down to the bottom. Often people will skip about. They'll read the headline in the first few lines, and they might skip right down to the bottom, which on emails is why it makes it so important to use a PS on the bottom of an email, because that often is the second place people will read, and you can use that PS as a second call to action, or to summarize the whole of the email or whatever. But it's make it readable, make it as readable as you can.
Comments and questions here. Louise switches off within a few lines. Usually, the second she spots a spelling mistake, she's out.
Yeah. Yeah, you're a bit weird though, Louise, aren't you? Yeah.
I used to really care about spelling mistakes. I used to they've not put any effort into this, but the more time I've spent in this world, the less I care about it. I used to be a bit of a grammar Nazi.
Yeah, I think again that depends on your audience. I think I'm not a grammar Nazi, because as a copywriter, I think we just butcher the English language left, right, and centre. I do like things to be spelled correctly in my own text, but grammatically, I think you've got, as a copywriter, I think you've got, certainly as a direct response copywriter, when you take into consideration what we're talking about, I think you've got license to bend and break some of the rules because you're trying to keep people involved. But then, yeah, I mean, that's the thing. Again, that comes back to knowing your audience, because like Louise was just saying there, if she switches off, if she sees a long paragraph or a spelling mistake or grammatical error, now if that is going to be typical, now you're going to be stabbing in the dark a bit. If that's going to be a typical response of your ICA, then you probably want to look at that. If it's not, then perhaps it's not as important. But there are people around that don't care about that because their message is strong enough that it's not a major thing. But so yeah, you've got to pitch it at the right level, haven't you? Okay, so next thing. So this is something that I think. So as service providers or product providers, people that provide a service or a product, I think this is something we often get wrong with our copy. We talk because we know our product. Now, I've just said earlier on, you've got to know the product inside out, and that's right. But I think often we can almost not go overboard with it, because you still need to know. But what we do is we start talking so much about the features of the product that we miss out on the benefits. Now, it's important to know the features, and it's important to discuss features of whatever the product or service is, but it's the benefits that will make people buy. So, for example, if, for example, somebody wants me to write some copy for them, but their budget isn't going to stretch to me doing a whole package of copy, something that I can do for them or do is do what we would call a high-level critique. So if they've written their own copy, I will look at it and pull out various areas for them to look at and change. But when I was selling that, if I was to concentrate on the features of a critique, and so I'll say, okay, I'll look at your copy, look at ways that we can get it to perform better. I'll send it back to you on a Google Doc all marked up and a Loom video that you can look at. They're the features, which might be important, but they're not the things that are going to move people to buy. The things that are going to move people to buy are the benefits. So what are the benefits of a copy critique? Okay, well, it's going to cost you significantly less than getting copy written from the ground up. So you're going to have more money in your pocket to start with. You're going to have somebody who knows what they're talking about, putting input into your copy. Therefore, your revenue, profits, etc., are all going to go up. So what we need to talk about is, yes, we do need to talk about features, but we need to concentrate more during the majority of our copy on the benefits, because that's what people are ultimately concerned about, is their own needs, their own wants. So you've got to hit them hard, as well as their pain points as well. I mean, goes back to what we were talking about earlier on about research. Is if I've got a product that I might want to sell to Robin, one really good way of me getting my point across is to talk to Robin in that copy about the things that Robin is struggling with, the things or the challenges that he faces, the pain points, effectively. Because what that does is it demonstrates to the reader that you have understood what their problem is. Mm-hmm. And you can also agitate that pain and make them almost imagine and feel whatever that pain point might be, and get them to feel that before you then come into telling them, actually, this is how you feel now, but actually I've got the answer to that or the solution to that with XYZ project. And the other thing that you've got to be doing all the way through your the main body of your copy is busting objections, because as people are in, you'll know this yourself, as you read any piece of copy, you will be thinking also about the reasons why you shouldn't buy. And there's lots of ways of doing that. You just boldly say that you might be thinking, this isn't for me because of XYZ. Well, actually, here is why it is for you, because of ABC. More often than not, you need to be more subtle than that and weave it into the copy. But that's a massively important thing to do in your copy, is to be just busting objections as you go.
But I don't have the time to do your course, Zach.
Exactly, but yeah. So the really good thing about my course, Robin, is that you can do it in your own time, and you could do it over the course of a week, doing it as an hour a day, or you could do it over the course of a month, doing it for 10 minutes a day.
It's quite expensive. I could buy a couple of games with that money.
It is, but exactly. But can you imagine the benefit of having X, Y, Z for just the price of 2 games?
Oh, and then I'll be earning more, and I can buy all the games I want.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah. So you take the objection and spin it around and bust it. Yeah. And that's, I think, for the most part, in terms of body copy, those sorts of things that we've just talked about, being conversational, talking to one person only, using stories, short chunks of text, bullets, features, pain points, objections. That if you can hit all of those, your copy will be pretty good. Then the last thing I want to talk about, unless you want to interrupt there, probably.
Yeah, we've got a series of comments that I think Amanda's dying for me to show on the screen. We've got quite a series of them going here. Amanda gets overexcited and puts a load all in one. He says, "Don't blow your load early."
Goes everywhere, all over the place.
And then, with just chat is thirsty.
Who's a Facebook user? I don't suppose we know, do we?
No, we don't know who Facebook user is.
No. I'll have to go back and look later on.
Yeah.
The subtitles saying cop instead of copy. Well, yeah. What can I say? But yeah, so going back to
God, yeah, we've got subtitles on. Sorry, carry on. Talk about
going back to your point, Amanda. Stop it. Just stop doing it, because people will get overloaded or overwhelmed if you're trying to give them too much information in one email. People will get overwhelmed and they'll click away from it. Break it down. And then, yeah, exactly that. And then quite possibly one of the most important things about copy is having good, strong calls to action at the end of your copy. You can have done all your research, got your headline absolutely banging so everybody reads your copy, your hook could be amazing, your body copy could tick all the boxes. But if it gets to the end of it and people don't know exactly what you want them to do and how to do it, it's all useless. It's all useless. You've got to have a really strong call to action, right? Get to the end of the text, right? This is what I want you to do. This is how you do it. And this is what will happen once you've done it. You've got to be so clear on your call to action or your close, because let's be honest, people are a lot stupider than you'd think. They just are. If they get right to the end of your email, right to the end of your sales page, whatever it is, and you don't tell them what it is you want them to do, they won't do it because they can't do it. And so you just be really strong. It might, in some cases, it might just be as simple as click here to find out more. But depending on the context, it might be that you need to go into more detail and be really clear and make it really obvious what you're expecting people to do. Because if you don't, they won't, because they can't. And that's call to action. So that's copywriting 101 in a very broad sense.
All right, good. We've got some questions here. So each bit of copy doesn't have to be a complete standalone journal submission style thing.
No. Again, it depends on the context, and depends on where that particular piece of copy sits within whatever series it is. But no, I mean, so for example, I think when we did the Nerd launch sequence, I think there was probably 10 or 12 emails over the course of 6 or 7 days, 7 or 8 days, something like that. Some of them go into a lot of detail about very specific things. Some of them are just maybe 2 or 3 paragraph emails that link other emails together, or just sit right in the sequence. So yeah, I mean, it depends what you're trying to do, but no, you don't need to give everything away every time you write. In fact, you don't want to, because actually, if you've got something like the nerd form, if you've got something there that was quite complex, if you try to discuss every detail of everything about that, nobody's ever going to read that, because you're going to be into tens of thousands of words, so nobody's going to read that. But what you do want to do is tell them enough in each email so that they come back and read the next one.
The question: should you hit the pain points in the call to action?
Yeah, I would. I always, so particularly if it's a sales page and it's a sort of my call to action is a close, then yeah, I definitely hit the pain points. You might say something like, so you've got two options here. You can either close this page down and carry on doing what you've already done and doing the things you already know don't work and end up feeling frustrated because you haven't taken action, and then close with, or the second option is X, Y, Z. And yeah, hit whatever pain points there are. I mean, that's the thing. I think once the one problem that you can have with copy is that you get so invested in your copy that you know word for word what your copy says, and then you automatically think, well, anybody who reads that, if I say the same thing twice, people are going to know I've already said that. They're not, to be honest, because A, they may not have read it, and secondly, if they have read it, are they going to remember that they've read it, and B, are they going to put those two together and say, oh, he said the same thing here twice? I don't think they will in most cases.
Long form sales pages, I've never read a full one. It's just this page just keeps scrolling and scrolling. I'm looking for the bits that leap out at me. Is it doing these things for me? Yeah, brilliant. I'll buy it.
And so with a long form sales page, the idea is you've got to put all the information on there you can, but knowing that the percentage of people that will actually read it from start to finish is quite low. But you've got to have the right points in the right places so that as people scroll down, they can find what it is they're looking for. Yeah.
There's a long one from Hayley, covering our faces. Hayley, I can't see it. Do you think it matters that all their copy is long form? So the way she writes, the majority of Facebook posts tend to be meaty and lengthy. Should she mix it up a bit if it's not a natural style? There's an example, Hayley, isn't it? Right there.
Yeah, you could have. Yeah, that could have been half the length there, Hayley, can it? I think I suppose it depends what kind of reaction you're getting to your copy, because if nobody's engaging with it, then yeah, you probably do want to look at other ways of doing it. But if you're happy with the engagement you're getting with your social posts and it's working, don't fix it. So yeah, I mean, I don't end up reading link posts, and there are other people like me. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
And Louise also doesn't read long and girthy posts once you sort it out. Again, this comes down to surely your customer avatar, your ideal client avatar. If you know what they like and what they're into, and if they're the people who like what you're about and what you're into, you're gonna attract the right kinds of people, and your content is going to land with them. Is that right?
Exactly that. If you're, it's all well and good me saying, well, I don't read long posts, because often I don't. But if it's a long post about something I'm interested in and I'm likely to buy, then yeah, I will read that. And so I think try not to get too hung up on that, because I think if your ideal client is interested, they will read at least the guts of it, whether they read every word of it or not. But there'll be more by dint of the fact that they're your ideal client and you're selling something that they're interested in buying, is likely to make them read that particular post or whatever it is, when perhaps they wouldn't read it if it was something they weren't interested in anyway.
What else we got? Anonymous user says doublespeak and buzzwords put people off. What do you mean by doublespeak?
Yeah, what do you mean by doublespeak? Buzzwords, maybe. Depends. buzzword.
If it's a topic that's big at the moment, then use those buzzwords to attract them in.
Yeah, but use them strategically, and perhaps slightly more obliquely. But yeah, another thing with copy, talking about the length of copy, is it needs to be long enough to say exactly what you want it to say, but also it needs to be short enough that or it needs to be concise enough that it doesn't need to be any longer. So you need to say exactly what you want to say in as fewer words as possible, but it still needs to be clear. So it depends what it is you're trying to get across on any given day. Sometimes that will be long, sometimes it will be short. Yeah, exactly. There you go. Exactly that.
Louise. And then Hayley saying, thank you. She gets good engagement.
Yeah, exactly. If it's working, Hayley, don't worry about it. And that's the other thing, like your vibe attracts your tribe too, doesn't it? So if we're talking about day-to-day Facebook posts, if that's who you are and that's who you want to be, then you don't necessarily need to change it. So what you're saying is the length doesn't matter. Exactly that. Yeah.
Hayley, buzzwords. Topical content is good. Being a smart ass dick is bad. Generally, I would say yes, but there's some people who that's their tribe. That's who they're attracted, and being a smart ass dick works for them.
Maybe broadly, but lots of people have made a lot of money by being a smart ass dick. I mean, I suppose perhaps ironically they're being a smart ass dick, but I think, yeah, your vibe attracts the tribe, doesn't it? I think, I don't think you can say yes or no broadly and apply it to everybody.
All right, we're coming up to the 52-minute mark.
Wow.
So have we got any more questions before we wrap up? Nothing's popping up. They might be furiously typing.
Yeah,
they might be busy being thirsty on other threads. So Zak, is there anything you'd like to add to that? That's been brilliant. I've learned lots, and I've already learned loads from you and the various copywriters.
No, I think we've covered everything I wanted to cover. But obviously, I'm around on Facebook. If there's anything specific that I haven't covered or anybody wants me to talk about in more depth, do just hit me up in DMs or whatever, and I shall do my best to respond.
Where can people find you? You've got a group, you've got a mailing
list. I've got a page called Copy by Zak, and I have my email list, which I can probably put the link to in here later on, that's exactly that. And I can put the link to my email list in here if anybody wants to get semi-regular, grammatically incorrect emails from me.
All right, Aidy's just clarifying. More the folks that cross-post the same tat everywhere.
Yeah.
Nothing wrong with repurposing your content, is there? But you can't just dump the same piece of copy in every Facebook group that you're a part of, because that's just terrible.
It's just a bit spammy, isn't it? Yeah, I mean, that's another thing with copy. Don't be a spammy dick.
Oh, imagine if you had a spammy dick. That's terrible. On that note,
yeah, indeed.
If you are watching this and you are not in Coaching for Geeks Facebook group, you should probably head over there and sign up. I don't know if you've got any viewers over on Twitch, but cfgshortcut.com, he hastily types, will bring you into our little world where I'm going to be spending the rest of the week playing on my new laptop, so you won't be getting much from me. Sorry, but we've got training coming up from glorious Hayley Field. We've got Gina Speeney Roberts. We've got me. We've got Honey Badger Games coming in to talk about starting up a business on your own and making a complete mess of it and figuring it out. We've got community managers who've worked for Sega. We've got director of games at Kickstarter will be joining us at some point. Content manager at MCM Comic Con will be joining us at some point. So we've got loads coming up in the next few months. We've got lots of thanks in the comments here. So take a look at those, Zach, when you can. So please, I know you're not here, but everybody, round of applause for Zak Lacey for blessing us with his word wizardry today. Get that hat on. Where is it? Get that hat on. So that people can click this.
It's I'll tell you what I don't like most, more than anything, it's the way that star, I can't get it central, the star keeps bumbling around like an idiot. Cheap me. Thank you, Hayley. Are you live tonight, Hayley? Because I'm going to be there trolling you tonight. This is very good. Lots to think about. More than welcome. More than welcome.
All right. Where's me outro video? Don't forget to head to the website. Call to action. Head to the website, coachingforgeeks.com, for all your life, love, gaming. Trying to type it as we go. Life skills. Should have said, I know. Oh, I put that in the wrong place. I posted it to Twitch. Never mind. We'll figure it out. We're out of time, gang. We'll see you soon. Lots of love. Great hat, says Amanda.
Yeah, it
That's
really
the
is.
most important thing. All right, let me just click that thing. That's not the right one. That's quite good up there. How about in black? That's better. Then we've got a little outro vid.
Brilliant. Good stuff.
Bye.
See you later, Robin. Cheers. See you later, guys.